Okay, we've snuck into AMG headquarters, and I found it. The crown. The thing they use to control who controls Marvel Crisis Protocol. And now, I will be able to fix extracts finally. Let's go.
Jeez Louise, Josh. Calm it down.
Oh no.
Okay, so why are we doing a King of MCP about the extract set? The Crisis set overall, while there are minor complaints, is largely considered by the community to be like in a pretty good spot. So what's the problem? What's the complaint? So there are a few small complaints that pop up that I'm going to address here, but I think the major complaint I have about the extracts is that they're all kind of the same. And furthermore, there is a major complaint about that the type doesn't matter except for specific attacks and superpowers and tactics cards that interact with asset and civilian, and whether something is an asset or civilian is not 100% straightforward. So let's change that. I'm proposing that we fundamentally change extracts to kind of mirror the way that secures are. So when you think about secures, there are two types of secures. There's the standard secure, which for the sake here, we're going to call King of the Hill. And then there's pay to flip secures, where you have to pay a power to flip it to your side. And sometimes they involve dice rolls. Sometimes you automatically get them. They change crisis to crisis. But there's essentially a clear delineation between the two types of secure. Let's do that to extracts across the civilian and asset line. Let's make a fundamental core change so that it's easy to stick in your mind which is which. So the change that I'm proposing here is that going forward, civilians have a new trigger in the power phase. Civilians now automatically drop every power phase. So what does this do? So I think this is going to make the game less about how many extract stealers you can play and what the quality of extract stealers your list has access to, and instead just playing a fast enough model on a civilian extract and controlling priority can be enough to like kind of flip the table on these things. It's also going to make certain extract runners a lot stronger, and that's kind of an unintended side effect, but I think it does so in a really interesting way. Like, for example, Bayou Time is going to be much better on Civilian Crisis because, you know, they are automatically dropped, so you can decide where they go. Characters also like Toad that pick up from range 2 also makes picking up the extracts right away with Toad, makes that a lot stronger. The other thing that's really interesting about this change is that there is no civilian-only steal in the game. Almost like this was designed and then dropped from the game. It's a little bit tinfoil hatty, I know, but every extract steal that is typed can only steal assets. Either the extract drops everything or it only steals assets. What's so interesting about this change then is that now the power of extract steals is kind of, or the people that can steal any kind of extract over just assets aren't that much stronger, and it kind of flattens the curve of extract stealing across the board. Now, an unintended side effect of this is going to be that attrition teams are going to get a large leg up because the extracts are going to be constantly dropped, so they get more chance to go grab them. So I think that we're going to make one major change to kind of combat that, or make a couple changes to combat that. Let's just go through all of the civilian or all of the extracts and how I'm going to dial their changes a little bit to kind of fix them and put them more in line with this main overall change. So first of all, alien ship. Alien ship, we are switching to be a civilian. I think this is the one that's easiest to keep on theme while moving it from an asset to a civilian. So instead of grabbing an alien core, you're now grabbing like an alien survivor, and the alien's like mad and it's dealing damage to you and your friends sometimes. So mechanically the same, other than it's a civilian. The reason we're changing it to a civilian is there are 10 extracts in the game, and I would like them to be 5 and 5. Instead, right now, we're living in 6 and 4. So by switching one, we can make it evenly split across the two, and this can have its intended goal of kind of standardizing this. Deadly Legacy Virus, we're changing nothing about it. I think Deadly Legacy Virus is in a great spot. Fear Grips, also known as hammers. We are making one small change, which is that hammers don't stack. I actually think they almost did this perfectly across the board to have things not stacking. And I'm going to make that change because they changed lots of things so that they don't stack. You can't just like hold all of them. The only one we're not is Deadly Legacy Virus, because the whole gimmick of that crisis is that if you're trying to assemble all of the pieces together on one character, and that doesn't work if it doesn't stack. I think the reason to fix this is that when like a large threat, very hard to kill model is holding a bunch of these, I think it can get problematic very fast if you're not holding like an extract, like a character that can drop all extracts. So like, I don't know if you've ever seen Thanos running around with 3 hammers or Bucky running around with 3 hammers and how hard that is to deal with. Bucky's a problem because when he has a lot of hammers, he floods into a lot of power, and that can let him Hydra hop from one side of the board to the other, and Thanos is like one of the hardest characters to kill. So hammers don't stack. You still get one. You still get to roll your extra dice. It's just limited to 1 extra dice. It doesn't really change who's good at this crisis. It just changes the slippery, or it flattens out the slippery slope nature of that crisis, where like getting multiple hammers on the same character can lead it to being easier to get even more multiple hammers on that character. Mutant extremists target U.S. senators. Again, we're just not changing anything about this crisis other than the core civilian change. I really like this change here because senators can be debilitating when you're holding one, and you can no longer double walk. Like, you need to be able to double walk to go impact a game that you're losing, and you would absolutely give up the point to not have that problem anymore. It's not as big of a problem now because you drop them every turn. So this makes it more of an issue of like when you want to retain your civilian and when you don't. So I like this change a lot here. I think it's going to make this crisis a lot easier to play. It's also going to kind of increase its sticky nature a bit, making this, even though it's a 6-wide crisis, kind of more of an attrition thing, because you like everybody goes up, picks up their extracts, and can't really back up, and then they're going to drop again. So this is going to keep all the senators kind of in the middle of the table, and I think this is going to be a really interesting brawling crisis moving forward. Paranoia pummels populace. No changes. It's an asset. We're leaving it as an asset. I think this is a great like scenario for all the crisis players, and now that healing factor characters aren't as dominant in the meta with exceptional healing being removed, I love that there's still encouragement for them to play healing factor characters on this crisis. The elephant in the room that everybody thinks they should change is Research Station. I am removing Research Station. I have long been a defender of Research Station. I think it's required to be in the game because there need to be slow crises, and at least it's interesting. Lots of people say it's the wrong color, that it should be a blue crisis instead of a extract. I think that's like, it lives in the same land that like Fisk does, where it's unclear which type of crisis it is. I think it's cool that that more grunts can like contest it, but ultimately I think with this change favoring fighting teams so much, we can't also leave Researcher in here. So Researcher is being removed, so that's another civilian down. So at the end of this, I'm going to add a brand new crisis to replace it. That's also going to be a civilian. Moving on, Skrulls infiltrate world leadership. You drop the civilian in the power phase, just like the overall civilian change. I think this one's interesting. It's going to make its passive ability of picking up the Skrull trigger more often. And I think that's at least interesting. Whether or not it's good, I think it's going to make the crisis feel more unique. Because very often, like this crisis, you just like pass all your rolls on turn 1, and then like the things don't change hands, and you can be like, this could have been any crisis. It's just the shape. Spider Infected. We are changing Spider Infected so that it moves you in the cleanup phase instead of in the power phase to remove the problem of, I can choose to drop the spiders before I move from the spiders. No, they move you in the cleanup phase. I don't think this breaks anything. I'm not sure what it could break. It might give you like spider foes lists that play spider infected will have less power to trigger traps because they don't get their power phase first before the crisis effects happen. But I don't think that's a major problem. Let me know if this breaks anything. I don't think that it does. I've thought long and hard about it, but it's mostly just for like a clarity of timing thing. Struggle for the cube. Cubes don't stack. You can only hold one cube. I think this is for the best with, because again, like sometimes Beta Ray Bill is holding 4 cubes and you're like, this character's so hard for my list to kill. I don't have a drop, or just like his dice are on fire. I think just making things not stack is the way forward. Montesi formula found. I find this crisis. This crisis is totally fine. There's really nothing wrong with it. They fixed the most broken thing on it, which was like characters like Iron Man and Storm buying extra dice for it and laying down beams that were like 8-die beams killing people. And they made it go from energy to mystic, so it fit with the fluff more. The downside is the wording on the crisis is unintuitive in my opinion. The attack is effectively hexed, but unless you are a player that is like well in the know or have had Montesi formula explained to you, I don't think that's intuitive. And if you look at cruelty has the same text on it but isn't hexed because it says except from crits. So I'm going to add except from crits on here. Maybe this makes Montesi formula too strong, but I think it makes it more intuitive to play for new players. And it's also going to encourage you to use the books more often, which I think is fun. All right, here's the big one. New crisis. Peace talks disrupted by dastardly villains. This is a civilian crisis. The name of this civilian is Negotiator. I think it fits well with the theme there because I have put it on the eye shape. Eye shape is the same as the meteor's shape. So you have, 2 sides negotiating and an intermediate, like managing the negotiation. I think that fits the theme overall here. And then characters roll 1 fewer attack die while holding a negotiator. So it's like a reverse hammers. And then it's a civilian, so it has the drop every turn effect. I like this for a couple reasons. One, I think this creates really interesting character choice because suddenly 4-die attackers are really problematic on this scenario, as picking it up makes you a 3-die attacker, which means you are unlikely to really get anything going with the dice. But also, it makes gainers much more enticing because if you always make a power, being less likely to spike a bunch of damage and get a bunch of power is helpful. So I think it creates interesting lines there. And then also because it drops every turn, if you need to go chase with your models, you can leave it on the ground and go after their holders with your full dice pool. Lastly, I think on turns where you overextend to try to change who's holding an extract, the extract holder that you've just loaded up with power is less likely to just blow you out back because they're down a die. So I think this creates interesting lines of play. I am a little worried that people will hate it for the same reason they love hammers. Because while I think hammers has a slippery slope problem of it rewards you for holding them and rewards you for winning, I'm hoping that this rubber band effect will be enough to make people play it. I also think it's a really interesting brawling crisis in the way that you the way that this on Gamma where you're constantly wrestling over these negotiators. I also think approaching the crisis, like the turn 1 on this is really interesting because there's a full safe grab in the middle, and then there's the fasto save grabs on the side, where if you're playing a character slightly faster than a normal character, you can safe grab your one. So if you're playing like Zemo with a small base long move, you can walk once, pick up this, and walk away, and just be down a die. Same thing with like a medium base, medium mover can also do that. Let me know what you guys think. So this is my list of crises that have changed. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe we'll do one for secures. And would you guys be interested in me running an event like on TTS using this crisis set? I think I'm pretty excited to do that. Or maybe I could talk Pastrami into running one lunch meet using this crisis set. I think it's really cool, and I would really love your feedback on it. Like, let me know what you guys think and whether you'd play on any of these and which crisis your list would play. With that being said, I'm Vincent Curkov, and don't forget that fun is a finite resource.